Hi there, Jill Allen from Jill Allen and Associates here, and we are back with part 2 of our 3-part podcast series, Building Your Practice Dream Team. In this podcast, we talk about how you can draft the winning team for your practice. This is one you are not going to want to miss. Now, don't forget to head on over to orthomarketing.com/dream team after the episode to grab your free worksheet so you can implement these strategies in your practice.
Orthomarketing.com, 360-degree digital marketing solutions for your practice.
Hello, everybody out there in podcast land. This is Dean Steinman from Ortho Marketing, and we are back with another podcast for you. And I am so excited to have back with me Jill Allen from Jill Allen and Associates. We're back with our podcast series. This is part 2 of our 3-part series, Building Your Practice Dream Team. And in this episode here, we're going to talk about how you could draft your winning team for your practice. And once again, don't forget to head over to orthomarketing.com/dream team after this amazing episode and then grab your free worksheet so you can implement some of the great things that Jill's going to talk about. So with that said, Jill, how are you today, my dear?
I am doing great. It's a beautiful day, and I am just super excited to be talking about one of my favorite things, and that's building dream teams in an orthodontic practice.
There you go. So, when I'm a sports fan. When I hear the word dream team, I think of the dream team of Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson and blah, 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 the greatest basketball team ever assembled. So let's talk about that. When it comes to building a dream team for your practice, what does that consist of? Who is the starting 5? In basketball, you've got your perfect team of your center and your forwards and your guards. So ideally, what is the perfect scenario for
Sure.
a dream team? If somebody had to fill in the blanks and say, here are the X many people that you need for your practice, who are they? And actually
Yeah.
back up, what are they?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, when we answer this question, I think this is just a really good thing to be talking about, especially now where we're at in 2022. And I really think we're seeing a lot of changes in our orthodontic industry and what the landscape looks like within our offices. I originally go back and think about, what are those core positions that we need in our office? And I'm definitely seeing that offices are maybe scaling back and scaling down their teams to really get just those team players in place and those dream team members. So when I think about it, I would say, we definitely need that core front office position, or that core. I like to call it still the traditional name, communications coordinator. I think every office needs a treatment coordinator, somebody that is there advocating for the patient and the doctor, and really helping patients say yes to treatment. Of course, I think we need our core clinical team members. We may not need as many as we used to need, but we definitely need those, especially as our treatment modalities are changing. Of course, a lot of offices still have those financial coordinators in place, but we are definitely starting to see that we are outsourcing that position more and more within our office. And then, every once in a while, we're going to also see teams that have office managers in place. So I really feel like those are kind of our core, or our key players on our dream team in our orthodontic offices. And of course, one more that we could see is our marketing coordinator, and that's also somebody that like for you and your company with Ortho Marketing. A lot of times, offices are like, "Gosh, I really want experts doing that." So that's another one of those roles that I'm seeing that are starting to be outsourced a little bit as well.
That's great. So as a business owner myself, it's very hard to find the right staff person. And then even more difficult is to keep them and get them on
Yes.
board. So let's talk about different ways to find dream team members. Why don't you walk somebody, say, so somebody is starting a practice, or they're expanding and they want to bring on a TC or an office manager or whatever it is. Let's talk about TC, because as you're right, that's probably one of the most important
Yeah.
components of your team there. So, what are some resources, some ways that somebody should actually even start looking to find a right, person for that? Um, they just put an ad up online. Do people do? Is it something that they even want people to see that they're looking to hire somebody? Should this be on down low or what? So let's talk about that. So resources.
Yeah.
Where should somebody go first and foremost to try to find the right person?
Yeah. So, the first thing I think, and I'm going to just back it up even before we're putting it online, or before we're starting to look, is I think we really need to assess, what do you need in your practice and what do you need this employee to look like? Because I feel like, gone are the days where we would just do the office shuffle and, oh, we're down a person. So we just shuffle somebody into that spot and then come to realize that, oh, they didn't really have the skill set that we need, right? And
Mhm.
I think that's what it's about in this, building your dream team, is first making sure you understand the skill set that you're looking for. And what the worksheet that we're going to have, that people can download, kind of talks about those soft skills. So taking an inventory of what you're looking for within the position. So once you've taken inventory and you understand what is it that you're going to need, then I think, moving to your question, how do we go about this? I think, number one, we just have to understand everybody is in a position right now of looking for a new employee.
Before you do that,
That's
let's back up one bit. Sorry to
Yeah.
cut you off there. So, what are the two things that you should be looking at to determine if you do need a if you A, need a TC, and B, if you need a new TC?
Yeah, yeah. So I think that, again, going back to assessing if somebody is in that position, assessing that skill set and saying, are they doing what I need them to do within this position? So, do they have the skills that I'm looking for? So, I'm just going to give you a couple examples of what I look for in treatment coordinators. Are
Okay.
they active listeners? Are they organized? Are they knowledgeable of the position, or can they be taught the knowledge that's needed? Are they motivated? Because one of the big things that we've got, in our treatment coordinators, is we don't want them to just make friends with our patients. We actually want them to help us get patients to say yes to treatment. So, are they motivated to move somebody to a yes? Do they have a good verbal or written communication skill set? I think that's super important. Are they confident? There's nothing worse than having a TC in a position, or having somebody, moving somebody around in the office, like, oh, they're friendly, but they aren't confident. They don't know how to talk about money. They're afraid to, talk about down payments and monthlies, and they don't want to hurt somebody's feelings when they tell them they need to actually pay for treatment. So looking at that skill set, I think, and understanding that, I think, will definitely help.
Well, TC in layman terms is almost a salesperson. They're
Oh,
selling your
for sure.
services.
Yeah, we need
Um,
to not be afraid to say that. It
right,
is sales. Sales is
and
not a bad word.
okay. And is there any limitations on compensation when it comes to a salesperson? Can a TC get commission, or do they have to get bonuses based on it? Is there certain limitations on a compensation level for a practice? Because there's nothing better than putting that carrot out there and saying, the more you help us, more business that comes in, the more money you make. That's what salespeople do. The harder they work, the more business they bring in, the more money they make. So, are there any limitations from a legal standpoint of getting somebody a commission? Is it not fee splitting? Is it commission? So, how does that work?
Yeah. So I haven't heard, in all my years, that there's anything to do with law in regard to that. So I don't think we have to worry about that, but I definitely feel like there is a difference in a startup practice and an existing practice, and what a doctor can actually financially afford. So I think in a startup practice, our goal is about growth, and the TC should be helping us every step of the way. And we may not have room for profit sharing yet, where when we get to a certain dollar amount within a practice, or a certain level where a doctor is able to profit share, maybe with this position, but maybe it's not just with this position. It could be within the whole office too. I think that that is something that can be a real motivating factor, as far as how we set up, how we pay this employee. Now,
Okay.
one thing that I always feel like as a consultant, and I coach my doctors on, is we always need a baseline, and I think that's good for everybody. We need to know what our goals are and what our baseline is that we have to hit, and then if we're above that and pushing past that, that's really where I feel like those bonuses can become really helpful, and can really become motivators as well.
Great. All right. So now let's go forward. So now you realize that you do need TC. Or, a lot of my clients act as a TC themselves. They still don't,
Yeah.
delegate. And if any of you guys out there need some type of motivation, um, quick tangent here. Read the book, The 4 Hour Work Week. I read that book by Tim Ferriss, and it helped me realize that I can't do everything. Okay, I delegate, and it changed my business, changed my life. Being realized that I can't do everything. So if you are a orthodontist, dentist practice owner, and you are also acting as your own TC, think about it. Is that the best use of your skills, your time, versus not? And think about potentially bringing somebody on. So now, you realize that you do need a TC. What should they do? What's the next step from there?
Yeah, yeah. So I feel like right now, and again, this is where we're at within our industry. I'm definitely feeling like Indeed is a great place to run ads. There's lots of different companies out there, but I feel like my clients tend to get the best out of running Indeed ads. And what I really like about a company like that is we can actually do a skills assessment test prior
Mhm.
to actually even reviewing resumes. And I try and teach my doctors that the interview process starts with them following directions. So if you put a skills assessment test out there and somebody sends you a resume and sends you everything, but they don't do the one thing that you ask them to do, take the skills assessment test, number one, in my opinion, they failed, because we need them to follow directions, right? So, did they do the assessment? Does it fit within the skill set that we're looking for? Secondarily, when I'm coaching my docs and my team members on reviewing resumes, does what they just sent into you, does it fit what you're looking for? So again, you took that time to assess, is this person a potential? And I always tell my teams, rate your resumes in 1, 2, and 3. So number one would be anybody who fits everything that I'm looking for. Number two would be anybody who maybe checks, 3 of the 5 boxes. Number threes, don't even waste your time with them. You may get 70 resumes in, but really only 10 of them are number ones, or maybe 10 of them are number twos, and probably only 5 of them are number ones. And I
Okay.
think, that's something that we need to remember is employees, that are applying for jobs may not even physically be looking at your ad. They may have a bot running that as well for them. So you don't want to waste your time on somebody who isn't really paying attention to what you're looking for.
What's the number one? Let's talk about a TC's perspective. What's the number one thing you should look at on their resume from experience? Do you want somebody that is sales experience, or somebody with orthodontic experience? Because the odds of you finding those two is going to be pretty slim.
It's kind of like
So
a unicorn out there.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. So if you had to choose one, somebody that worked for a practice, understands the industry, or two has been a great salesperson, they could have sold cars for who knows, what's the what which way would you look to to say that's somebody that I want to talk to get them to rank as a one, because that unicorn is going to be hard to find,
Yeah.
so
I,
what skill set would you say is number one importance?
sure. I think if it were just comparing those two, I would probably go with somebody who's got sales experience
Okay.
And then secondarily, and maybe not secondarily, maybe in the same level, personality. Is this somebody that I would want to sit across the desk from and say yes to treatment with? Because again, sales, some people with sales may not have the personality either that you're looking for. Is their personality going to fit the culture, like we talked about in podcast one? Is it going to fit the culture of my practice as well?
Right.
So I think there's a little balance there, but I'm always about personality and then skill set, because you can't teach personality.
Right. Let's just back up one more time. I mentioned before as resources. So you mentioned, Indeed, and I've used Indeed many, many times. I always have ads running there, always looking for quality people. But sometimes it just gets stale, and you can't run the same thing over again with the same people. So besides, Indeed, should they just be looking at other, job boards, just posting it there, or looking at, should they be talking to colleagues, looking for recruiters? What other options can people look at if they just, are not getting the right people through Indeed?
Yeah, and I wish I had the magic answer here, Dean. I think that there comes a point where you kind of have to try everything. Putting it out in your office, letting people know you're looking for the next team member. Maybe you've got patients that are coming in that could fit that bill, or maybe they know somebody. I think using your social networks to put it out there that you're looking for a new team member. Definitely, talking to colleagues, could also be an option too. What I do not find and have not found works well anymore is, um, you know, putting it up on dental boards or different things like that. I just don't feel like that's where people are looking for employment anymore. I think that that's just kind of an older way of doing it. So I think keeping it as social as you can with your
Right.
social outlets and networks is probably the best thing you can do. And then if you've got an office that's that you're willing to let your patients know. I mean, gosh, you guys see between 50 and 100 patients a day. Somebody's got to know somebody, and if they like the culture and they like your office, they're going to be like, I've got this great office that I go to and they're hiring. Jenny, you should go check them out, right? Like
Right.
make it easy, make it accessible. And I don't think we need to hide it under, we need to feel bad that we're looking for somebody. Doggone it. Everybody's looking for somebody. We just need
Sure.
that right person to fall into our laps.
Now let's talk about it. An office manager. Um, I'd say probably half of my practices have an office manager that's been there since Betsy Ross. Okay, it's been there since before the advent of electricity, and you get used to somebody been there, but how do you determine now, okay, it's time to make a change? Even though Mary Lou has been here for 20, 30 years, it's time we
Yep.
do that there. So how do you, and people are going to be scared to do that, to make a change. You get used to somebody running your practice forever, but these people are probably are not going to have the skills that you need to compete in the market these days in order to stand out. So what should they do, as far as if they do have somebody and now they need to move on, and got to be careful as well, because if you got somebody there, you have to age discrimination and this and that, so it's an HR issue.
Yeah,
So let's talk
for
about that
sure.
as a scenario. So practice has office manager, and she's been there for 25 years, and and they realize, okay, it is time to make a change. Okay, A, how do they determine if it's time to make a change from the office manager, and B, what do they do to make that change and worry about as far as an HR issue as well?
Yeah. So gosh, that's a really tough and sensitive subject to, get into and to make those decisions. I think the first thing, and I really feel this way with every position in the practice, but if we're talking about an office manager, I think the first thing that a doctor needs to do is really assess, are they helping me move forward with my business, or are they holding me back? Are we stuck in the past? And am I dragging a sale as I'm trying to push forward and change, maybe the way my practice is, or I'm trying to ramp it up to get it ready, so that maybe, I retire in another 10 years, or, whatever that, looks like. So I think that they have to really do first some self-assessment on, is this person helping or hurting me in my practice? And that's tough, especially if you've had long-term relationships with somebody.
Right.
Sometimes we know our team members more than we know our family members.
Right.
So it can be kind of like going through a divorce a little bit when,
Right.
if you have to, change out that position. But secondarily, I want, everyone to really think about too, is this still a position I need in my office? Because I kind of stand on the fence of, do we need office managers? I don't know. Some offices may, depending upon how big they are. Some may not, because again, the office manager of the past, I've been in this industry 30 years now, was doing our bookkeeping and, all these things that now we're outsourcing. So do we really need that role? Or do we need to maybe empower the team members that are in our office to become leads or kind of take on that role? And they may or may not actually need to replace that position. But I think
Right.
it first starts with assessing, are they helping or hurting me? And I think you can do that honestly when you take the emotion out of it. And I know this is hard with anybody in your practice. Is this person helping or hurting me? Are they helping me move in the direction of my dreams and my goals? Or are they holding on to, the past and living practice life in the rearview mirror?
Right. Smart. You're right. And what's one thing you could check off to determine if this person, it could be from an assistant to a market to an office manager, whatever. What's one thing they should, how do they even know if they're helping or hurting? Because you might be people get complacent and like, wow, I could go on vacation and know that my office will be taken care of and blah 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 because this person here. But you're right, with the ad of technologies and everything being virtual, you know bookkeeping, billing, automation, scheduling. A lot of the stuff is done through, AI and through the web and whatever it is. So how much do you need an office manager? But you probably need somebody in place as far as, an assistant or whatever. But again, what's one thing that somebody could look at? I don't know if it's a pure analytical number or if it's emotional to determine if somebody's helping you or not.
Yeah, I think it's hard to look at it financially, but let's talk about it emotionally. Are you constantly in conflict with your office manager or an employee? Are you spending more time thinking about them outside of work than than you should? And I don't mean that on like a relationship component of it. I'm just talking about, are you going home frustrated or frazzled or feeling like every time you have an encounter with them, it's not moving in the right direction, or every time you bring up a new idea, you're shot down in your own practice about, hey, I want to move us, let's say we're a more established practice. Maybe, I want to change our operating system. I want to move us to paperless. I want to bring on a marketing company and really up our online ads to bring in new patients. I want to bring in virtual consults, all these things. And if you're constantly getting conflict, I think that needs to be a little bit of a wake up call, that maybe it's time for change, and sometimes we love people, but we got to send them away with love. Like there was a great time and they met a need in our practice that we needed, but times are changing. Practices are changing. We're moving in different directions, and sometimes they aren't ready, and that's okay too. I was just talking to a doctor this last week, and they had a team member that had been with the practice for a long time, and I think it was great because she was able to actually say, "I'm." I'm just not on board with where we're going. It's not that it's a bad thing. They just weren't, they were comfortable with where they were for a long time and just weren't on board with where things were going. And it was good for everybody to part on good terms. And I think sometimes we just have to make those hard
Right.
decisions.
You're right. what is one bit of advice you should, somebody's thinking of it, but they really don't know what to do. They haven't really been in the hiring, firing part mode before.
Yeah.
The practice is growing or got stagnant, either or. What's one thing they should do if they don't know what to do? Is a consultant like you available as a one-off just to consult with them and just to analyze what they have? Should they be, what options do people have in order to do it if they're stuck and saying, yeah, I think I do, but I'm not really sure, and I want to speak to somebody, what should they do?
Yeah, for sure. Well, definitely that's something that we do here at Jill Allen and Associates, and they would meet with me, and I kind of call them, coaching, consultant coaching calls, and
Right?
sometimes you just need somebody to talk to, and kind of help you play it out and talk it out and reassure you that you're going to be able to move forward, or somebody's there to kind of get your back as you step away from one person and maybe or maybe not bring somebody else in. So I definitely think within our industry we've got some great, even besides me, there's great consultants out there, but that's definitely something, that we do in our company, and it's great because a lot of docs really take advantage of that. You can get a lot of advice from Facebook and online study groups and all these different things, but sometimes you may not want to share all of that or be that vulnerable, out there to maybe your peers. And sometimes it's nice to just, it's almost like a, you know meeting with a, oh my gosh, I just lost, meeting with a mentor or somebody that can, that can just kind of
Right.
help you through that.
Same way I did it, the same thing. I've got a coach and that I work with, and if I don't know everything, I'm smart, and I've realized that I'm don't know everything. It took a while to figure that out. You
Yeah.
think you do, but you don't. And to work with an expert is really important, and we do that for a lot of practices as well. They just might not want to, go all in and have us do all the marketing, but they need us to consult with them on new technologies and how to ask for how to make TikToks or how to do this or that or how to get referrals, and so it's smart guys out there to search out a expert like Jill, and to use that her for the experience that she has and the guidance, because you don't see the forest through the trees, okay, and that's so difficult to do, and that's where somebody who is an expert in an industry or can help you out. Like it's not, I just mentioned, we can look and see what's going on in the marketing part for your practice versus things that you see because you're right in the middle of it. The same thing with your staff and your practice. You might not be able to see the big picture because you're so stuck in the middle of it there.
Yeah.
So to use a consultant is so important. Um,
Yeah. And if
so
I could just add something
please,
too, I really feel like, the stigma, I think for a long time, in the past, our the mindset was, I will figure it out. I will do this all on my own, and I'm a better doctor or I'm a better owner if I do it all on my own. And I just think, nowadays the stigma, there's no big deal about asking for help. And honestly, I would I would say that asking for help makes you a stronger person because
of
you
course.
do realize that you can't do it all yourself.
Exactly. So, Jill, we're going to wrap this thing up in a few minutes. So, now this here is part two of a three-part series. As
Yes.
far and now the drafting the dream team and finding the right staff is so important. So, what in wrapping it up from this section here, what's one bit of advice that person who's listening to this should do right now after hearing this, besides obviously going to, the link that I mentioned before, which is very, very important to do. And you could really go there and download our, you know, worksheet here. And again, that link will be in the bottom of the notes here. So besides downloading the worksheet and filling that out, what's one bit of advice that you could give somebody?
I would just say, as we're kind of thinking about our dream team, is, really taking time to assess who's on your team. Are they there because they're helping or hurting you? And are they helping move you forward towards your goals? And if you find that you are holding on to somebody just because of longevity, or just because you don't want to, um, have to make a change or go through, that just really, think about this and know that right now, lots of people are making changes, and sometimes it's just better to dive in and do that if you have to, and really focus on setting up your dream team so that you can hit your goals in this next year and the years to come.
Excellent. Great. All right, Jill, thanks so much. Once again, guys, thanks so much for listening. Look forward to our next podcast with Jill. So you'll hear part 3 of our series here. Once again, don't forget to go over to orthomarketing.com/dream team to get this incredible downloadable checklist for your practice to see what you have available here. We'd love to hear from you. Love to see if anybody has any questions or comments or thoughts about what it was like for you when you went to hire somebody or you didn't know what to do, and all of a sudden how it opened up your life for you. So change is good. Change is important. I mentioned this many, many times. If you don't adapt, you're going to die. You have to change. You have to be able to take things to the next level. From technology, practices that don't embrace technology are going to be left behind. Practices that don't invest in advertising and marketing will definitely be left behind. Practices
Yes.
don't invest in a consultant to help guide you will be left behind. So these are unfortunately, you got to spend money to make money, and things, from a marketing perspective, we're in a pay to play world now. You have to pay Facebook, Google, Instagram in order to be seen. You have no choice. You've got to have an advertising budget. Typically, you got to spend 10% of your sales as a number to use as a barometer, for advertising. And the same thing with payroll. There should be a certain percentage of your revenue that should go towards that. And Jill, I'm sure I could walk you through that and have any questions there. But this was very great. I really appreciate this time we spent together here. Everybody, thanks so much for listening. Stay tuned soon for part 3. And everybody out in podcast land, be safe. Hope you have a great summer of 2020. Enjoy. Life is too short. Keep smiling. And Jill, thanks so much for everything. I appreciate it. And everybody out there, be safe and reach out to Jill with any questions you have. And Jill, once again, if somebody wanted to reach you, how should they do so?
They can go to my website at www.practiceresults.com and fill out a form, contact me, and you'll be hooked right into my Calendly link, and you will be having a call very quickly with me. So that's a great way to contact.
Excellent. All right. Thanks so much, Jill. Appreciate it. And everybody, be safe and happy smiles. Bye-bye.
Orthomarketing.com. 360-degree digital marketing solutions for your practice.